Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope everybody is having a great day. We're going to be talking about some pullbacks that we're seeing across in the market right now, especially as some uncertainty is continuing to rise, and I guess a better word to say is lingering around as we've seen over the previous few weeks. We're going to be talking about some of the big trendy stocks right now on the map. Palantir, Nvidia, and Tesla have a lot of volatility behind them, and how that's kind of interacting or correlating with the general market that we see pulling back and what we could possibly be expecting going forward. Now, if you're a newer returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get into all the news that you need to hear. If you pop it up on the screen here, Palantir comes down about 3% today. Now, nonetheless, even with all the uncertainty that we've seen, Palantir has actually been doing a pretty good job stabilizing, continuing to consolidate, build support. Yes, there's been some volatile trading sessions, but Palantir is doing a really good job staying at these high 80s and right now sitting at 90 right now as we speak. Palantir is getting a little bit of some continued buying pressure actually in the overnight hours on Robinhood, currently sitting at 91.58. It'll be interesting to see if Palantir is able to bust out over this kind of consolidatory phase and possibly get through this $100 level of resistance here in the next few weeks. It's really going to depend on what we see with the market, especially with some of the remarks that we're seeing. Of course, we have the tariff uncertainty with those, supposedly negotiations coming at the table. How are those all going to play out? Palantir, though, specifically looking at the company itself, actually wins an immigration tracking contract amid here this federal agency. They talk about shakeups. What they won here is a $30 million contract from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the ICE agency. Palantir stock here is retreating in terms of the price reaction, not due to this news, but more because of the NASDAQ composite selling off. But regarding this contract deal right here, Palantir has provided a lot of data analytics tools to the government. So we're just continuing to see those strong ties that have been continued to be established. And now they're going to be working with ICE that you can see right here, utilizing their AI data analytics software, working to gather intelligence, working on counterterrorism, working on different types of things that ICE is working on doing in terms of what the administration is setting forth for their mission and objective. Regarding the federal budget cuts, that is kind of one of the big things with the Trump administration having those ties to Palantir. With all these different types of federal budget cuts, is this going to affect Palantir's revenue? Right now, in terms, we haven't had like earnings reports or anything like that, but right now we haven't seen any big, I want to say, key shocking kind of factors that this could really impact Palantir's revenue. And that's just because they're more of an outlier, in my opinion, in the fact that wherever the Fed is actually going to be cutting and reducing waste, that's where Palantir could actually step in and offer their AI solutions as kind of a workload replacement. That's how I think they're kind of an outlier and will actually continue to do well during these uncertain times. Toggle on over, where Nvidia is sitting at right now is kind of one of the main reasons that we saw the broader market sell off today. Broader market comes down about 2.5% on the NASDAQ, 2.3% at the S&P 500, mostly red across the whole day with a slight buying back right in the last hour of the trading session. Where Nvidia sits, though, specifically speaking, if I can find it here on the dang list, Nvidia closed at 96.91. Back underneath this $100 support level. Nvidia, what we've seen historically in recent times, is to not spend a ton of time underneath 100. There's a lot of support for that buyback at 100, and once it hits 100, typically is staying above those zones. We'll see what happens here, because one of the big pieces of news that brought down Nvidia, and of course that correlated with just due to its market capitalization weight, had some negative pressure on the market. Nvidia here fell about 4.5% after this report from Reuters saying that Chinese tech giant right here, Huawei, is set to begin shipping advanced AI chips as soon as the next month, in wake of the export rules that we've seen currently effectively banning Nvidia's sale of its H20 chips in China. This could bring a lot of uncertainty to the stock. Not trying to cause a lot of FUD here. The only reason that I'm bringing this up is because if we're going to restrict the exporting of the chips to China, then hey, another company is going to have to come in to help fulfill China's demand of these new AI chips, because there's an AI arms race right now going on which country can have the best pieces of technology and the computing power in order for AI to advance and develop the quickest. Nvidia right here is starting to face competition, and that's coming right from Huawei right here, set to begin shipping these advanced AI chips soon. Now, the actual name of these AI chips is the 910C. You could think the 910C chips. These are reportedly competitive with Nvidia's H100 AI chips, which are about 2 generations behind the Blackwell chips. The U.S. government actually banned the export of H100 GPUs in China in 2022, just as an FYI. These banning of the exports for these chips from Nvidia to China is not just from the Trump administration. You can see right here, Nvidia is trying to manufacture new chips for China amid this U.S. crackdown. Already 3 years ago, under the Biden administration, you can see issuing export controls for A100 and H100 chips. Nvidia trying to introduce these different chips into the market, alternatives for the Chinese market, and the Biden administration continuing to ban these exports. And now that's just rolling over into the Trump administration right here, effectively banning H20 exports to China. So preparing a version of its Blackwell chip for China. This is interesting. As you can see, the U.S. is trying to keep Nvidia from allowing its best GPUs to be exported. Regarding what's going to be happening with that, I think there's a lot of uncertainty. Where Nvidia sits right now is actually a little buying back here in the after hours at 97.28. Regarding its price action, though, personally, if Nvidia continues to do well, if this whole tariff kind of negotiation, I want to say battle, is the sole reason why we're having these market dips right now. And then as soon as negotiations come to the table, there's going to be a flip. If that is true, anything under $100 from Nvidia is personally attractive to myself. And that kind of continues on to the next volatile stock that we've been looking at, and that is Tesla. Tesla here closes at 227. You can see has really been bouncing, having some large swings recently here in the last few weeks, going from 225 up to nearly 300 at 288, and kind of bouncing between those different zones, consolidating now at more of this bottom level of support, right at about this 222. Currently, where Tesla trades in the after hours is up about $6 at 228. Nonetheless, came down about 5% in the day. One of the big things is a tumble right here ahead of its first quarter earnings report. With this 6% drop on Monday, investors are really looking for key answers on basically Musk's plan for the automaker Tesla. As you know, he's spending a lot of his time right now with Trump, the U.S. government, really working in the Department of Government Efficiency. And so the company stock right now is down about 44%. A lot of investors are just uncertain with how much time Elon has to put into the innovation of Tesla because of his really busy schedule now, working side by side with the Trump administration. The distractions here outside of Tesla is kind of the main reason why we're seeing uncertainty that is starting to spur across the board with Tesla. And regarding some of the other projects that they're working on right here, the company's expected to report about a revenue of $21.24 billion for the first quarter, which would mark a slight drop from the same period last year, expecting earnings of about 40 cents per share. We even have Oppenheimer writing here in an analyst note talking about ongoing brand erosion. So we'll see what happens with the quarter report. You can see it seems like a lot of investors, even the streets, looking kind of bearish on this. And that's kind of going into leading into the market right here. What happened today is we have a lot of finger pointing and Trump that's really not happy with what the Fed is doing regarding interest rates. In the latest multiple posts that we've seen calling Powell, the Fed chair, he called the Fed chief right here Mr. Too Late and a major loser, actually, coming out finger pointing right here, hinting at a possible termination here. You can see quoted by the CNBC article. In this talking, Powell responds saying that he cannot be fired under law and he intends to serve through the end of his term in May of 2026. So turbulent period right here. That is for sure. especially with some disagreement that's coming from the Fed, the administration. You have the reciprocal tariffs, what's going to be happening in terms of the Chinese tariff rates negotiation. So that's just a continuation of everything that we've seen going on. On top of that, we have some big market events that have been happening for Nvidia. Like I said, with Huawei coming in now with competition for selling AI stocks or AI chips, and you also have Tesla kind of facing this whole perspective of brand erosion. We'll see what happens. Nonetheless, what do you guys think about that? What's your prediction down in the comments? Peace out. Take care. Have a wonderful night.